Happy New Year, everyone, and welcome to Belonging, the Flip Side of Adversity, provided by the PA Care Partnership in association with the Office of Mental Health and Substance Abuse Services. At any time during the presentation, please type your questions into the Q&A feature, which you will find by running your mouse along the bottom of your Zoom screen. Also there, you can see the closed captioning. I'm not sure how it may look for you. I know it looks a little bit different for me, but you should either have a button that says captioning. And if you turn that on, you'll be able to see the closed captioning. If you don't have a button that says closed captioning, just hit the ellipsis that says more, and you should, in that little menu screen that pops up, see option for the captioning. Today's moderators are myself, Jamal Ford, and Nancy Massey from the PA Care Partnership. And with that, I will turn it over to Nancy to introduce our speaker.
Thank you, Jamal. Yes, we are so excited to be here. For anybody that was listening before we officially started, you heard me being excited and Deirdre laughing. And so we are very excited. And to repeat, she is in South Carolina. And so I'm excited about that too. I'm just excited. Dr. Jackson has a bachelor's degree from Drexel University, a master's degree in elementary education from Temple University, and a doctoral degree from Wilmington University in leadership and innovation. Dr. Jackson is CEO and founder of Living Strong. She is a woman pursuing her purpose, passion, and life's priority to share her belief that all children deserve the best education available. She is an award-winning author, educator, and entrepreneur who is recognized as a leading educational trainer in trauma-informed practices and cultural competence. Some of you may know her from her time as an educator at Lakeside Global. Dr. Jackson is a veteran educator with over 20 years of experience supporting nonprofit and executive leadership. She also has her own radio show on Voice America every Thursday evening from 5 to 6, and you can find her there tonight. And if we're all ready, I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Jackson to begin. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Nancy and Jamal. As always, it is such a pleasure to be able to share space with you and to have the privilege of doing my heart work. And we're going to be talking about the power and importance of belonging today. And I am hoping that as we unpack belonging, it's an opportunity for it to be a parallel process for you to think about your place, your perspective for yourself on how you belong, and then also thinking about how do we create intentional spaces for others to belong. Connected a great deal to the quote that I have chosen to start with for our conversation. Well-being is the combination of our love for what we do each day an experience that also included social unrest, political division, and honestly, just plain old exhaustion. Well-being has become a huge topic for many people. But in this same post-pandemic era, that include these three letters. But I want to make sure that we are clear and careful about how these three letters are distinctly different and they are connected to well-being, not just as a trend, but actually how they are the foundation for belonging. You see, I view equity as important to the heart of the matter. If equity is at the heart, then we can do diversity with authenticity, and we can do inclusion with integrity. But first, recognizing that if equity is at the heart of the matter, it's important to also understand that equity is more than statistics, facts, strategies, policies, or data. Equity actually has a feeling connected to it. When individuals encounter you, your organization, your environment, are they able to feel the equitable impact that you are offering? I am valued for my strengths, my contributions. I am part of the group, not apart from the group. I'm respected for who I am. My voice is heard and appreciated. I feel cared about, and I care about others, and the list goes on. When we are willing to and understanding how individuals entering into a space can feel the impact of equitable approaches that also underscore the message that they belong, that they are welcome, and that they are seen. If you're interested in using the cultural sensory walk that we use and coach administrations, schools, and community organizations through, actually using it as a tool to walk through your programs and using all 5 senses, being able to identify how intentionally am I creating a space of belonging so individuals feel our equitable intentionality, but also are able in all 5 levels recognize that this is a place that they are safe, valued, and heard. Feel free to use your camera option on your cell phone device or a mobile device to be able to download and have access to the cultural sensory walk. I can also provide it to Nancy and Jamal after the session if you don't have your device readily available, but I offer it as a tool to help us understand where and how we get to a place of belonging. You see, diversity is demographics. Equity is the leveling of an uneven playing field. Inclusion is a welcoming environment for everyone, which lays the foundation for belonging. Belonging is a feeling of comfort, value, acceptance, and it all happens within an inclusive space. When we recognize that we're actually wired for belonging, our emotional needs for belonging is hardwired into our brains as a part of our human evolution. Every human being, our brain is seeking 2 things: safety and connection. When we understand that at the very root, our brains are all seeking these 2 things, then it helps us understand how recent studies have found that social exclusion can actually activate the same regions of the brain's physical pain systems. This feeling of pain alerts us that we have sustained an injury to our social connections, and even a single minor incident of exclusion can lead to an immediate decline in a person's performance. When we understand the biological connection that belonging has, we can also then understand the implications it has for children's physical health and development. It can impact sleep quality, cognitive, longitudinal development, the cardiovascular systems and functions, as well as the immune system. It impacts mental well-being. The lack of belonging can actually cause depression and antisocial behavior in children and youth, and it affects academic performance, the ability to sustain and track course persistence and even grades. So when we recognize that belonging is not only a social evolution for us, something that we need as connecting, but it is tied to our biology. To further understand the relationship between the social and physical elements of belonging, those who feel as though they are the out group, not finding connection or actually experiencing exclusion, what research has helped us understand that as adults, it begins to translate into a decrease in job satisfaction, health problems for adults as well, higher job turnover, loss of productivity, a loss of focus, and being distracted by a second job. Now, I'm not talking about the night job or the second work obligation, but it actually goes deeper than that when we're talking about the second job. Professor Robert Keegan and Lisa Leahy referred to the second job as when marginalized people are spending time and energy combating perceived weaknesses. The second job is the attention, the thing that constantly continues to distract individuals because they're managing other people's impressions of their worth, hiding their uncertainties or their limitations, and becoming mentally and emotionally exhausted, which takes a toll on engagement as well as performance. A research group at Harvard, actually a group of students with a project called I Too Am Harvard, explained it like this: understanding that not belonging actually can impact learning. When an individual feels like an out-group member, the mental energy and capacity is then spent monitoring the environment for threatening information, whether that be discrimination, stereotypes. The impact to learning, it's a diversion of focus or distraction. That energy and focus is then siphoned into the fear of confirming a stereotype by accidentally performing badly or causing some, it also causes some great deal of anxiety within the person. In the same context, this anxiety places a drain on a student's energy and cognitive resources. As a result, the capacity of working memory is diminished and academic performance is impaired. You see, when we're talking about belonging, it is not only about social connection, it's also about biology, and it directly impacts performance, engagement, learning. So, as I was sharing earlier, recognizing the impact that continuing to get distracted by trying to the second job, it can actually also impact the narrative someone develops about themselves. And we have an opportunity by intentionally integrating belonging to create a counter narrative. But I want to be careful to understand and explain what a counter narrative is. It isn't just about hyping people up on platitudes or positive thinking. It's not potluck dinners and cultural festivities. It's not mottos and chants. And telling someone to work hard and be resilient is not a counter narrative. Those are all directions about how to behave, not affirmations of who you are as a person. You see, Jean Isley Clark shares in her book, Growing Up Again, that we, as from very early ages in childhood, seek out protection, and we often can use this invisible imaginary shield to protect us from life's experiences. We learn to use this shield when our needs are not being met. And she goes on to explain, if we understand the impact of belonging, the strongest shields actually have love at the center. If our shields have holes in the center part, we have probably learned to deny and discount our needs and defend our earliest survival decisions, those habits of survival. But we actually have an opportunity to repair, rewire, regulate, and repeat in order to restore and repair those holes, that invisible shield that we often will grab and hold up to protect ourselves. We can repair those holes or the weak areas of that shield as children and even as adults. The worn shields that we may carry as caregivers, and even the shield ourselves, the self that we are trying to better understand and navigate the world through. Rewiring is about going forward so we can teach better, break behavior cycles, feel more alive, co-create with purpose, regulate and create change. Regulation is a process of going to that wounded place in our identity, our belonging, decisions and behaviors, and rewiring new narratives and decisions, and then following them with new behaviors, and then creating space that repeats that new narrative for safety and affirmed belonging. But the power in understanding this repair, rewire, regulate, and repeat that Jean Isley Clark shares in her book, it's actually at the source of understanding developmental affirmations. Developmental affirmations are more than the trending thought of posting that I can statement on the mirror. What Jean Isley Clark helps us understand is that developmental affirmations happen in alignment with the developmental stages of growth and developmental tasks throughout child development into our adult years and even into the end of life. Developmental affirmations, they're impacted by the degree to which messages are repeated over time and influenced through integration. How often we continue to receive the message of affirmation impacts how deeply rooted we are able to understand our personal value and belonging. The balance of and the lack thereof creates a pathway to our core belief system about ourself and our world view. The power of affirmations, as I shared earlier, it goes beyond the trending topics, but beginning to really understand the science behind affirmations, it builds our esteem, our sense of love, and can be especially important when we are tempted to discount our needs and not believe the affirmations of our value are important to the trueness of who we are for ourselves. Developmental affirmations often support that strengthen our ability to accomplish life tasks and move through rough experiences that try to rewrite our value, our being, our belonging, and our becoming. Before I share with you the outline of developmental affirmations, I'm going to encourage you to grab a piece of paper. And as I share the 9 stages of developmental affirmations, I'd like for you to think about a child or an adult who could actually benefit from receiving a developmental affirmation. Pause and think about who that person could be. And those 9 stages that Jean Isley Clark outlines in Growing Up Again start actually from utero. Before we as individuals are even born, there are specific developmental affirmations we all need to hear and experience from the womb and moving into the being stage, the doing stage, the thinking stage, the identity and power stage, the structure stage, the identity, sexuality, So when we understand Growing Up Again, she goes into a very lengthy explanation of each one of these stages. So I'm only going to be able to give you, in the short span of time that I have, I'm only going to be able to give you a short synopsis or one example of each of them. In the becoming stage, an example of an affirmation that we need to be able to hear is, I am loved just as I am. In the being stage, I can make my needs known. In the doing stage, I am supported and connected and protected. In the thinking stage, I can think for myself. In the next stage, in the identity and power stage, I can be powerful and ask for help at the same time. In the structure stage, I can trust myself. In the identity, sexuality, and separation stage, I can learn independence and know myself. And in the adult stage, I value my uniqueness and the uniqueness of others. When we recognize the power of each of these developmental stages and being able to recognize how they begin to shape our awareness of how we belong in space and understanding our own value, it allows us, and the beauty of her book is that if we've missed a stage, it's not too late. We can actually grow up again. It's an opportunity for us to be able to go back and re-experience affirmations that we did not receive at the moment in time of development. Jamal, you can go to the next slide. When we recognize that there are actually some clues when we are feeling unsafe, that affirmation stage actually needs to be rewired. If you take a look at this list of clues that an affirmation stage could be rewired, could be reconnected, there's an opportunity for us to be self-reflective as well as thinking of how we can better understand what's happening with someone else. The next slide. Clues when we feel unsafe that an affirmation stage can be connected to an opportunity to repair it can show up in any of these, each one within Dr. Isley Clark's book shows up connected to each one of those stages. So if you have an opportunity to connect and pick up the book, she goes into where Each one of the missed stages can show up as an individual connection to feeling unsafe, whether it is that someone uses anger over fear, or not understanding the relevance of rules, or trusting the thinking of a group more than owning our own thoughts. It moves us from judging to actually better understanding, and then moving into an action of affirming. Jamal? So I ask you again, that person, that child, the adult, who you would like to give an affirmation for. Jamal, you can click the next. Yeah. I encourage you to think about a developmental stage, an affirmation, and identify an affirmation that you would write to that person to begin to be a part of the solution towards supporting healthy belonging. Identify who that person is and actually take pen to paper to affirm not just what you want them to do, but who they are. Jamal? You see, the way we feel about ourselves is shaped by the interactions we have with others. And the interactions we have with others shape how we feel about ourselves. It's connected. Next. I'd like for you to grab a piece of paper and draw a circle in the middle of the paper and write your name. Inside that first circle, your name should reside, and then click. Create around 6 circles around your name. And now I want you to think about 6 groups, descriptions, categories that distinctively connect with how you uniquely show up in spaces. 6 things that you would identify as important to your identity. And one in each of those circles, write that word that describes that group or category that connects with your identity. It might be your gender, it might be a role, your birth order, a skill or an ability, an athletic quality, a relationship. Write one in each of the circles that it's a group that's important to how you see yourself and how your identity is shaped. I'll give you a moment to add one to each circle. And if you can't think of 6, that's okay, but strive for 6. I know for me, as a Southern-born individual, for me, an element of music is vitally important to me. So dancer is important for me. I'm a mom and a grandmother. That might show up in a circle. My faith is important to me. If I find it identifies who I am. I identify as a woman. I identify as an African-American individual. What are some examples of elements, one in each circle, that reflects how you see yourself? Now, as you take a moment to look at what you placed in each circle, I'd like for you to think about a time in which you were really proud to be able to be associated with that group. Think of a time you were very proud to be connected with that group. I want you to just kind of sit with that for a moment. And now choose and think about another time in which it may have been painful or fearful to be associated with one of those groups in a circle that represents you. Sit with it for a moment. And then I'm now going to ask you to do something. Now choose one group that you'll cross off, you'll eliminate, actually put a X through. I know it might be hard to choose, but I'm going to push you to choose. Identify one circle that you're willing to cross off, even if it's hard. I'm going to push the envelope again. Find a second circle to cross off. I know at this point, people, when I'm in person, people often say, well, why? Just go with me on this. And I'm going to make it even more difficult. A third circle. Which one would you cross off and eliminate? Yeah, I know by the third one, it may have been a struggle. When someone is forced to fit into a space that does not welcome their whole self, their culture, their identity, they are often forced to hide or leave out dimensions of themselves, to shed belonging in order to fit in. And that can absolutely impact how they begin to show up. Jamal, next slide. You see, sometimes, oh no, go back. Sometimes that opportunity or experience of having to eliminate a part of who someone believes they are, it impacts how they begin to show up. It begins to actually distort who they believe they are, and the internal struggle and fight can happen. I'm going to open up my screen and my camera. Hopefully there won't be a glitch, but I want you to get this, because sometimes that shield can show up very much like a mask. That shield of survival, in order to fit in places that I'm not sure I belong or that there's space for me, I will overcompensate and sometimes carry or wear the mask of people pleasing. Sometimes it can look like a mask, that shield that I've learned to pick up and navigate life through. It can actually operate very much like a mask of anger. It can show up as a mask where I lack confidence. It can show up as a workaholic. If I can overachieve, if I can just prove that I belong, but it's actually a mask where I'm disconnected from who I truly am to try to please others. That mask can also show up as showing and keeping up appearances. The MAC face could look beautiful, but there is a brokenness behind the appearances. That mask or shield can also show up as lies, trying to survive and capitulate to try and say just the right thing, even if I don't even believe it. That mask can show up as depression because I have tried to navigate spaces for so long. I have begun to deny who I am, and therefore am finding spaces where I'm depressed and disconnected. That shield with holes can show up as a mask of blame at times. When we begin to understand the power and the importance of creating space for individuals to actually be who they have and who they are intended to be, it's an opportunity for us to allow them to put down or take down the mask and show up in their authentic self, and in some cases, needing to reconnect with who they actually are. Next slide, Jamal. Affirming someone's belonging is not just done in words. Humanity is waiting for us, not to hear about our actions, but to see our actions. Next. Affirmations are not just words. They are the things that we not only say, but what we do, how we think, and how we feel, externally and internally. For children, a few examples that Jean Isley Clark uses in Growing Up Again. For young children or even school-age youth, you can create a basket of affirmations from the stages, all of the stages that need to be rewired, and include the entire class in picking and saying at least one to each other daily. Provide space and time for children and adults to organize their thoughts. For young children, you can record the adult voice for a child so that they can play back in their caregiver's absence words of affirmation. And that's actually not just limited to children. We actually believe our own voice more than any other voice. So one strategy, one of the guests from my show shared with us, is to actually record your own voice, speaking affirmations from each of the developmental stages. If you find that you felt, as you looked at each of those stages, there were stages that I didn't receive that, you can go back to that stage and practice saying the affirmation to yourself in a recording and play your own voice back to yourself. Your brain connects to your own voice more deeply than any other. We believe our voice even more. Next slide. For adults, we can actually grow up again with intentional strategies of affirmation. Respond to everyday anxieties and needs or clues and notice which stage they are from, and use the affirmation from that stage to support where you, the person, are today. And then speak those affirmations back to yourself. Share your day with someone and then pick the affirmation you need to hear to help you reframe your day and celebrate the day, the fact that you are in it. And you can even use creative expression. For example, write a story starting with, "In my next life, I will." It gives yourself permission to continue to write the chapters of your current story. And yes, grow up again. Jamal? Affirmations are even important in the workplace. the professors from the University of California shared that workplace affirmations should be aimed to enable people to manage challenging events, as well as deal with threatening information, navigate conflict, stay motivated, remember their reason to be, why they're doing the work in the first place, reduce imposter syndrome, and cope with daily stress. When we're able to recognize that not only personally, developmentally, does affirming who we are impact us, but we can create intentional spaces within our work environment. But sometimes we only affirm for our accomplishments. And Lakeside Global Institute, next slide, Diane Wagenhaus, within their curriculum, actually identifies 12 affirmation categories. We can affirm for more than just our accomplishments. Jamal, you can click. We can affirm for our potential, quality traits, even the struggle and the effort we provide. Our intention, our growth, change, positive impact, even the reality of a situation. We can affirm for how someone sets priorities, sets responsibilities, connections, and the process of growth they are encountering. Now, I've worked with teams on developing affirmations as an intentional strategy and tool to connect with others. And I've found that it's not the easiest thing to affirm for beyond accomplishments. We're used to that. But if you challenge yourself to begin to think about how can I affirm someone for the progress, the process, the priorities they have set, we create space, even within the work environment, for others to feel seen. Jamal? Affirmations in the workplace have been identified as an opportunity to use them to lower stress and boost performance in difficult tasks, to improve your interpersonal skills by helping to promote positive reactions and feelings and build relationship. It's practicing positive affirmations that can actually raise the level of optimism and happiness, the perception or perspective about an environment and the work that we do. When we can recognize that we have said something or done something that we regret, we can actually affirm ourselves and begin to apologize and recognize that we can do it again in a healthier way. We don't have to get stuck by our mistakes. Jamal? It's important to let new lessons in order for us to be able to create new decisions. Remember, it's okay to start today, and it's okay to start over. Combine affirmations with your goals and even use them in connection with technology. You can make affirmations more effective by using them on your smart device, by connecting them to notifications. You can select a daily affirmation and have it set to show up as a calendar alert within your app. Jamal? Listening is a magnetic and strange thing, a creative force. You see, affirmations can open the door to heart-centered listening. When people really listen to themselves and others in a quiet, fascinated attention, the creative foundation inside of us begins to inspire and cast up new thoughts and unexpected wisdom. I'd like for you to pause and think about, Jamal, the last time you experienced feeling deeply heard. What was going on? What bit of wisdom did you learn from the experience? Think about it. When was the last time you felt fully seen and you felt your voice was heard? Jamal, the art of listening is the single most important skill to cultivate and enhancing our communication. It deeply connects to relationship building and the pursuit of creating a safe place for people to feel seen, valued, and heard. But oftentimes, we lack the patience. We're actually not listening because we're too busy rushing to the next thought or the solution. We're not being present with one another. Dr. Ron and Mary Hulnick of the University of Santa Monica identified 4 levels of listening. Jamal, that first level is actually listening for information, which we actually sometimes think we've actually heard because we can restate the content that someone said, but that's actually the smallest part of listening. The second level of listening is actually listening for tone. Now, this one is listening for how someone says something, and it often overrides the information we hear. It's the energy of communication. The third level of listening is listening for the person. We're creating space where we're caring, we're receptive, independent of the content. We're listening more so that we're actually seeing the person so that they feel heard. And the fourth level of listening, that's the level of understanding. And I love how Dr. Ron and Mary Hulnick establish, if we're listening to understand, we are actually setting an intention to understand what and the meaning behind the what of what is being said. One of their quotes, "My intention is to listen to not only what you say, but also the deeper meaning for you, centering my awareness in my heart and giving you my complete attention." See, listening to understand is a strategic move in order for us to be intentional about creating space for belonging. Jamal, because when we're listening for understanding, it's not about us just hearing, but we're actually seeking meaning. It's not about us being right, but we're looking for clarity. We're focused on building trust in relationship, and we're not just trying to fix the problem, but we actually want to sit with the process of processing. And it's more about acknowledging the other person's voice than being able to agree or getting our way. Jamal, listening to understand is a space that is inclusive, where people feel comfortable in being able to learn and share and grow together. It acknowledges that we come from different experiences and that those experiences impact our belief, but it supports the listener in opening up their heart, challenging them to be more present and using their heart to hear. It communicates the qualities of acceptance, empathy, belonging, and compassion, and it holds all of us accountable for doing the work of actually learning together, seeking understanding, and intentionally creating community. Jamal, practicing heart-centered listening, being fully present to another's content and their tone, being receptive to the person speaking so they feel truly heard, and being open to deeper meanings has allowed us as a team to venture into such difficult topics and building strong relationships. Jamal, but I challenge you, what's the difference between strategy versus system? Just pause for a moment. Oftentimes we will think about listening as a strategy. We will use it as a strategy, a technique that helps an individual change their behavior in order to promote better health or accomplish a goal. We'll use listening as a strategy, but if we're going to create intentional spaces for this valuable understanding of belonging, it's actually integrating listening as a system, a systemic approach to your environment, to how you show up as an individual in spaces. You see, a systemic approach seeks to understand the complex and dynamic nature that's actually influencing an individual or a group's behavior. And with a systemic approach, it helps us define the process to achieve growth and change. So when we're using listening as a system, it changes our entire framework of how we show up. Jamal, can you just click once? I've been working with a group of home visitors from Lancaster, Lebanon County area, the IU13, for the past 4 years. And we actually have been committed to creating and utilizing a framework that focuses on processing and listening to really see families and children and actually have them feel seen. We committed to the Lakeside Global Institute's framework of listening to understand. We've utilized this framework, and it has revolutionized how we have conducted home visiting, how we have supported families, how they actually have reconnected to their reason to be in the work. It has created a revolutionary ripple effect through the entire system approach that they take to connecting with families, especially families who have encountered adversity. Those who are trying to navigate, not just to survive, but to get to a place of thriving. You see, the breakdown of LATE is listen. Jamal, you can click 1. Listen for understanding. It's a process in which we actually unpack thoughts and feelings about grief, stress, fear, helplessness, injustice, shame, etc. It's actually listening to create space for a shared voice and belonging. And then the process of affirming. Affirming in this system, it reframes how someone sees themselves by rewiring, regulating, and repeating with a new narrative about self. And then we layer on teaching. It's an opportunity to inform concrete strategies that are connected to understanding the nature of stress, flashbacks, triggers, misunderstandings, past hurts, brain states, coping, and then beginning to recognize how we can manage behaviors and responses moving forward. And then lastly, exploring. These are safe questions that gently guide and promote strategies for next steps or actions to address unresolved issues in order to grow. Now, I will challenge you, our journey for the past 4 years, this is a framework. It's not just a tool. It's not just a strategy. It is a framework for a systemic approach for how we engage in relationship with others. It is a sequence, but it does not necessarily happen linearly. You have to listen well before you affirm, or else it can sound like discounting. And we want to listen and affirm before we try to teach anyone, because we want to make sure they understand we have context and we see them. And then challenge together the exploration of better understanding what we believe to be true and who we believe we are, even in the face of the adversity we experience. I'm going to share 2 short videos from a longer episode or workshop that we're going to actually be sharing to the greater field of home visiting. It's going to be released very soon. It's an hour and a half of us walking through our journey of how we utilize late to shape and reshape our understanding of how to connect with others.
First had in the beginning, being a home visitor and learning all these new techniques, I may have been resistant at times, and actually implementing it and being able to translate it with her and seeing how like that was able to shift and how she was able to understand it, it helped me realize like it just helped me realize like and understand like, okay, this truly does work. This isn't just like a, oh, it's gonna work, it's gonna, no, this works. And it just opened me up and allowed me to be open-minded more. At first I would be honest, I came in probably a little bit closed-minded about it, but it allowed me to be more open-minded. And it also allowed me to try it, because watching her do it, I was like, wait, hold on. That's amazing. That's amazing that just in the 90 minutes that we did this, you were able to realize this. Like, I want to try this. Like, I want to see it if it works. Like, how am I going to ask you to do something and I'm not doing it? So I did try it, and I just want to say it was so hard. It was very difficult, but I did try it, and I was like, wow, I didn't know that was connected. I didn't know that that's why I was doing these things, or like why I was stuck in that feeling. So I was able to relate to her more. And I think that allowed me to do that, to be more relatable. Because at the end of the day, even though we're teaching all these things, I want to be able to have a relationship, and I don't want them to look at me like, oh, she knows everything. I want them to look at me like, she's going through this with me. Like, how amazing to say and see that, like, you're going through this with me. You may be on your own journey and I'm on my own, but somewhere down there, we're dealing with something the same. We're trying to grow the same. We're trying to break these cycles the same way.
As we close out our conversation, I want to provide a little bit more context to why we wanted to create this video. This has been, at the point of this recording, a 4-year journey. And at points, it was rocky. At points, we wanted to give up. There were moments when we weren't even really sure how effective we were going to be in learning and integrating concepts we had never used before. But with a brave team who allowed themselves to be stretched, they have gotten to a place where it's no longer about checking the box or trying to fix issues or problems in the lives of families, but they've begun to do the work on themselves first, and then allow themselves to be fully present in the presence of the challenge, the stressors, and even the glorious growth moments with families, to begin to open up awareness processing, and the ability to listen with intentionality. We wanted to share this video because we also want to encourage and challenge you. As you start your journey, it's not going to be about the big leaps, but it's going to be about the small, incremental steps. It's not the things that you do in urgency, but the things that you do consistently that will cause transformation. And we want to also encourage you and challenge you to continue to do your own work in researching and partnering with others around our state that are doing this work as well. This wasn't necessarily an easy journey. It wasn't a smooth journey, and it definitely wasn't a linear, straight line from A to B, but it has been one that I can say has allowed us to be brave, has challenged us to be intentional, and it has encouraged us to integrate this work for ourselves so that we can show up authentically for families. And we encourage you to do the same.
So I encourage you to actually recognize why I included the elements of raw truth is that what I'm sharing with you today is not about a quick fix. It's not about a check the box. It's not about a quick solution. It's actually about doing the brave, hard work of showing up authentically to give permission for others to do the same. And if I can do a shameless plug, I highly recommend the trauma-informed coursework that Lakeside Global Institute offers. And you actually can access some of those trainings right here at the PA Care Partnership. So as you begin to really understand doing this work, as I shared, it's about building a framework to create and connect relationship. So I want to be honest. I did borrow this concept from the business world, relational marketing. Craig Rochelle of the Leadership Podcast often says, it's not going to be business as usual. People are not just tired. If they were tired, they would take a nap. People are depleted and they need to be refilled to pursue restored well-being. Relational marketing is exploring strategies and processes of building long-term relationships with clients and those you serve. Now, I've got these 5 blocks and I want them to stay blank because I'd like for you in this moment to think about what are the 5 building blocks to healthy relationship building. What would you put in these 5 blocks if I told you there were 5 key elements that WellPoint Care Network has identified in their system to actually fortify and sustain relationships? What would you put in those blocks? Jamal, can you just click 3 times? You might have used these 3 words. Oftentimes when I ask for the 5 blocks to relationship building, people will give some combination of these 3. You can click once more. Now, many times we will start at these 3 of action when actually you can click the foundation to building healthy relationships are the bottom 2 blocks. And those 2 blocks are safety and trust. Anytime within our 4-year process that we encountered resistance, that we encountered individuals that wouldn't open up, that wouldn't share, that wouldn't connect, we were having struggles. You can click, Jamal. We went back to these 2 blocks. Not more programming, not more activities, not more strategy, but we went back to how intentional have we been in fortifying safety and trust, so that when we offer choices, when we encounter collaboration, when we encourage empowerment, there's actually a foundation that they sit upon. You can go to the next slide. Relational marketing is one in which we shift from focusing on actually gaining more connections, more clients, more traffic. It's investing in deepening existing relationships with 2-way communication that offers the receiver your complete attention, your respect, and your caring. And in return, needs and feedback are honestly shared. It's mutual empathy. Next. Relational marketing prioritizes the client, the staff, the stakeholder, that retention of that relationship, not just more traffic. It's based in communication that creates a clear message to your vision so that clients or staff or stakeholders understand the value of the unique services that you offer, and it allows them to invest in the loyalty that they have to your mission. And it integrates services and approaches that actually connect to their lives, and they feel more natural and genuine and authentic. It solves for the stress, not just the problem. You're understanding the pain points and the hidden rules that actually drive motivation, as well as belief systems, those core narratives and worldviews that we talked about earlier. And it ultimately retains advocates that will promote, recruit, and foster growth for and with you. Next slide. And as we come to a close, if your emotional abilities aren't in hand, if you don't have self-awareness, if you are not able to manage your distressing emotions, if you can't have empathy and have effective relationships, then no matter how smart you are not going to get very far. So let's close with talking about healing. Jamal, next slide. Keys to a healing community. Healing is in response to the needs and voice of the group or the community that you're serving. Start with making sure we're actually listening for what the real needs are. Next, it improves personal well-being at a systems level, not just strategies. Next. Self-care, it absolutely is important, but healing communities focus more on community care. It is equally important to attend to community care, which is recognizing the structural, cultural, and organizational issues that actually are pathologizing the issue onto the staff by continuing to tell people that they need more self-care or that they need to take care of themselves, when actually it's community care. It's the system. It's a systemic approach that will support any self-care plan that individuals have. And next, systemic issues are dealt with within healing communities. Issues of bias and inequity are individually as well as systemically addressed. We're polishing our lenses to look more closely and be authentic. Next. The last 3 keys of healing community is it harnesses the human agency and power that is already within the group and the community. oftentimes, when a narrative that has limited my ability to see myself has sabotaged my ability to really understand who I am, I can forget that I actually have agency and power. And when I'm in a community that reminds me of the fact that I have value, that I have power, and that my voice has power, a healing community harnesses that. It's not someone else showing up to be the hero for someone else. It's reminding that person that they have the power to be their own hero. Healing communities offer room for innovation and new possibilities, and they consistently show respect to those they serve, creating space for shared stories and belonging. Last slide. I appreciate the opportunity to share some of the work that we have spent as a team digging deeply into for the past 4 years, recognizing that individuals who have impacted narratives that have robbed them of belonging, we do not have to stay stuck. They don't have to continue to hold on to a mask that prevents them from showing up in spaces fully seen, that there is a flip side to the adversity we experience. And a key to it is, yes, diversity, equity, and inclusion. But when we keep equity at the heart of the matter, it actually creates the foundation for a systemic approach to belonging. I think we have time for any questions. I know the in and out, in again and out again may have been hard to capture everything. Any questions that you have?
And if anyone has any questions, if you could put them in that Q&A feature that you see at the bottom of your screen. If you scroll along the bottom of your screen, I will gladly pose those questions to Dr. B.
I'd like to say one thing, if I may, Jamal.
Mhm.
I just placed a link in the chat, and it's for the evaluation for today's presentation. And I want to say something that we've all heard a million times, and we all think, yeah. But I will tell you that I personally, along with others, read every single evaluation, do reports on it, share it, and also am able to say, yes, we need to have Dr. Jackson back again, because she is amazing. And she has helped us through a difficult time, and we have learned so much from her, and there is more to learn. So please complete your evaluations. Thank you.
So we did just get one question in, Doc V, and Amani would like to know what led you to these concepts and putting together this type of presentation.
Oh, I love that question. I love that question. It actually was something at the heart of what I've always believed, but the impacts of the pandemic and the experiences of continuing to coach individuals through the pandemic. At first, we were focused so much on strategies and continuing to try to tweak strategies. And we even talked a lot initially about self-care approaches. But it was when we kind of stepped back and really began to challenge ourselves, instead of continuing to reach for strategies, how are we holding ourselves accountable for actually seeing families and children and one another? That's a vulnerable place, and that's a brave place. And it took us time to put down our own masks, the things that we actually were carrying. And through actually pulling back those layers and being willing to say, I see you, it revolutionized everything. And so we continue to dig deeper into what can we do as a systemic approach to integrate listening more effectively. We looked at the science around what actually shapes and forms and impacts perception of identity and personal value. We did our homework and then became brave to do the work on ourselves first and saw revolutionary things in ourselves, and then continued to do the work. And then it led to our desire to create the video that's going to be released to the field of home visiting within the next month or so, chronicling our process and how it has changed relationship building, belonging, and even the voice of clients. It really came down to, we're not trying to get back to anything. We're recognizing where we are, and we're being brave enough to be revolutionary in moving forward by actually becoming more personal and seen.
Thank you, Dr. Jackson. Michelle would like to know, how did you end up working with IU13 and how that work kind of got started?
Well, I am a statewide early Head Start coach. That's actually where it started. About 6 years ago, almost 7 years ago, I gained the opportunity to be an early Head Start coach across the state of Pennsylvania. I serve programs and home visitors from the border of Ohio all the way across to Montgomery County. And it started there. And this is important, I think, for individuals to understand, is that as we got deeper into intentionality and braver, we began to see real change. And others within the organization desired the opportunity for it to spread. And so now I coach leaders within LLIU 13. I coach other groups, early intervention and pre-K groups within the IU. So it just continued to spread because key leaders said yes to innovative change and openness.
Yeah, I'm gonna ask this next question, but then I'll share a story about my journey, if you will. Shandera would like to know, does this work for individuals who have a deep self-loathing?
So, you know what? Yes. But I preface this by saying one of the key things that we have done in this work is recognizing there are strategies that we can use on ourselves, but we must be willing to recognize when we need professional help and create a strategic plan that at this point, I am going to seek out professional help to help me unpack narratives that are keeping me stuck. So that being said, actually, yes, we started this work by unpacking our own self, our own ideologies, our own bias, our own areas of blind spots. And as we did the work for ourselves so that we could show up more authentic and have an intentionality to our presence, it then allowed us to see families and children and colleagues in an entirely different way. We better understood others because we started with using these strategies. Now, a fantastic tool, and the entire LLIU team in Early Head Start, we purchased the book growing up again together, and we're actually reading the book together and using it. There are amazing tools in there, because what we've been through, what we missed as a child, we actually can go back and grow up again and identify and grab those things that we missed and bring them forward into our present.
Thank you, Dr. Jackson, for that answer. You were going through your presentation, and it took me back to, for those of you who don't know, I've gone through all of Lakeside's very intensive classes, took 2 years, and Doc V was one of my teachers during that time. And I remember coming to class one evening, very frustrated about where I was at work and in my position. And we talked a lot about the system, and where I was stuck at professionally was trying to change where I was when the work was so much bigger than that. And I think, when you went back through late, it just took me right back to a Thursday evening, 2016. And going through listening and affirming. When you are seen, when people see you and what it is that you need, the things that you're trying to do, I can't describe exactly how it made me feel, but that's why I'm here today. I'm here in this position today, and this is our 3rd year doing these webinars. I've met some amazing people. I've worked, Nancy, one of those people. Having that experience made me leave the position that I was in search of something more, because I wanted to affect change at a greater level. I want a greater scale. I wanted to help youth and families and carry my purpose forward in a much more meaningful way. So this presentation and listening to everything that you said today, Dr. V, kind of took me right back there, and it sort of solidified that I'm in the right place. So thank you.
Oh, that warms my heart. Thank you, Jamal. And if I can, even going back to the earlier question, there was a period in the pandemic where I saw coachees and heard coachees kind of losing that motivation. They weren't quite sure why they were doing what they were doing. And we locked in on the system of listening, and actually really locked in on this framework. And I can't tell you how many times in coaching now, individuals have said, I remember now why I'm doing this. And it has changed how it has continued to validate the work for myself, and the impact I now believe I'm having. So thank you.
No problem. And with that, I want to wrap up. We have hit 3:59, so right before the 4 o'clock hour. Thank you again, Dr. Jackson, for this presentation. Our next presentation is with Esther Castillo on Thursday, January 26, 2023, from 2:30 to 4 p.m. And the topic is cultural humility, intentionality, and vulnerability, the vital ingredients for engaging diverse communities. We look forward to having you all join us. Thank you again, and we will see you on the 26th. Have a good evening, everyone.
Thank you again, Deirdre. We love you and appreciate you so much.
Thank you always. Thank you.